Hello, my lovely friends. My name is Rue. How do you do? Welcome back to my channel. We're doing another Autism Chat today. If you are new to my channel, my name is Rue, and I was diagnosed with autism in October of 2021. It's almost been 2 years. That's crazy. And today, okay, so sometimes I talk about autism on my channel, just so you know, if this is your first video. We do like rambly, chatty videos where I just sort of talk about my experiences and just chat. And I always have something to tap on because it's ASMR and it sounds good. So I'm tapping on a Lay's lid. Whatever. So what I wanted to talk about today is something I have recently been reading about, and maybe some of you also know about this. I just want to be clear that I am not at all an expert in this, and I don't even know if I would qualify for this. A lot of it feels very relatable to me, and so I wanted to talk about it. So what I want to talk about today is the PDA profile of autism. And I've heard this term quite a lot. I've just never read about it because I think in a lot of circumstances, people who they would deem having a PDA profile are more outwardly expressive of their discomfort. And so I thought, well, that's not me, I wasn't like a child who caused issues or I didn't have explosive outbursts. But I feel like, as with a lot of things, things tend to be diagnosed on external behavior instead of looking at what's happening inside. And so professionals will be like, okay, this behavior is disruptive and bad and all this stuff, and so those people will get identified easier, because they're bothering people. And then people like me who are more internalizing and don't openly or aren't very expressive outwardly, they're like, oh, you're fine. You're not causing any problems. But anyways, what is PDA? So PDA stands for pathological demand avoidance. And so again, they named it based on what they see externally. But another name that people like to use, which is a little more better description, is pervasive drive for autonomy. And so that's kind of explaining why they don't they want to avoid demands. So this is super interesting to me, and I was reading about it and it just made stuff make a lot of sense to me, because I was reading this one website and she explained it as almost like a phobia of loss of autonomy. So losing your freedom and choices and things like that. And that felt very that felt real to me. Because one of these things that I have a hard time with is why can't I do these things? Why does this have such a severe reaction in my brain? Working a job and all that entails. I was literally in a state of fight or flight constantly. And this, reading about this, it just made a lot of sense to me that yeah, it does feel like a phobia of loss of autonomy, not having my freedom and having to deal with other people's demands, and that is something that I tend to avoid at all costs. Hence my entire life being centered around being in control of my like schedule and like whatever, like it was just like a light bulb moment, like in the same way that like finding out I was autistic was a light bulb moment. It kind of, I feel like it helps explain like all the stuff that I couldn't explain with just autism. But like it is a profile of autism, like a type of autism, I don't know, supposedly. But like it's not like a recognized diagnostic thing. Like I don't think there's been a lot of research about it. So like and I believe it's more of a prevalent term in the UK, but obviously with the internet it's kind of spread, you know, as things do. But I think it's really interesting. And I've just like barely scraped the surface of like what it is and what that means, and I don't know how you cope with it. Like, I mean, other than doing what I'm doing and like carving out a life that's doesn't have demands. Like I like literally I cut stuff out of my life so frequently that is a demand. I try to keep my life super simple and contained. And it just made a lot of sense. The other thing I was reading, which was very interesting, is that people with a PDA profile often have a hard time getting diagnosed with autism because it can kind of mask autistic traits or something. I don't know, because I guess people with PDA tend to be better at like probably masking, I guess, but like it says they, on the outside it appears they are okay at socializing and things like that, but like deep down they're having troubles with it, because I think in a lot of and in some individuals they use sort of like social manipulation to get out of demands, and so there is some level of like competency, I guess. So I guess that can be like, oh, you can socialize, so you're not autistic. It also says like they're good at like role play and like acting and stuff, which is also interesting because I do feel like there's a subgroup of like autistic people who are into theater and stuff and like acting. I don't know. But basically what I gathered is like in our brains, and I say our, as if I am PDA, but I really don't know, but it feels very relatable. When there's a demand, your brain goes into fight or flight mode and you have severe anxiety. And that just feels very accurate for me because I do have the most like unproportional reactions to the smallest thing, and I hate it. Like say someone texted me, first of all, text messages. I hate the obligation that I need to respond, and that is a demand. Even if it's something I want to respond to, it's like feels very bad, and that's annoying, and I don't like that. But like if someone was like, hey, we should hang out on this day, and I'd be like, okay, I mean, yeah, that sounds fun, but also I don't want to do that because I'm gonna dread it and be stressed about it until it happens. And like, yeah, like, I mean, literally, and like, I feel like it also explains why I hate having obligations that aren't early in the morning, because if I have something in the evening scheduled, I'm literally going to be stressed about it the entire day, and it's just not going to be a good day. But if I do it in the morning, I don't have a lot of time to stress about it, and I just get it out of the way, and then I can do whatever I want to. Like, And I've always been like that. I was also extremely bad with procrastinating when I was a kid and a teenager, which I did very well. And the thing is, I don't know how much of that was executive functioning and how much of that was just like the demand is too much. I don't want to think about it. My memory is so bad. I don't honestly remember how it made me feel. I wish I did. I just know I put everything off until literally the last moment. Like sometimes I'd do it an hour before it was due or whatever. Or I just wouldn't do it sometimes. Or turn in late. Like I was really bad, but I got by because I found public school to be quite easy. And I could get away with it. I obviously had to learn how to get around that once I went to college because that did not fly. But yeah, that makes you wonder. And I genuinely, like, it's so interesting to me because up until the last few years, all of my 20s, I put myself in situations where I was in control. Like, I had control of my schedule, and it wasn't like I had a job where I had to be here these times that someone else designated. It was like I was in school, so I was like, okay, I can only work these hours, and I'm gonna schedule it when I want to schedule it, and like I want to schedule my classes when I want to schedule my classes, and like all this stuff. And it was like, it was based, like I based my entire life around having autonomy and like being in control of my schedule. And I mean, and then when I had a full-time job, I imploded, I mean, and I didn't have a lot of demands when I was a kid either. Like, I feel like I had a lot of freedom and I got to do what I like to do, and I mean, it's just very interesting. Oh, and then the other thing that I thought was super interesting is that these sorts of autistic individuals may need more novelty in their routines. Like, autistic people, you tend to think, oh, they want to do the same thing every single day. And like, this also really struck me because I do like routine. I like having a structure, but I also can't hold myself to the same obligations every day because that feels like too much. And okay, like I literally have multiple to-do lists because if I put it all on my daily to-do list, I would get overwhelmed and not do anything. So like I have a daily to-do list of things that I do know I can do every day. And I have a weekly to-do list of things I want to get done sometime this week. But there's like no pressure to do it on one singular day. It's just like whenever I feel like doing it. And then so that was like all I had. And then I realized I didn't like the more like long-term items being on my weekly list because I didn't do them and it felt like a demand. And so I made a long-term to-do list of things I want to get done eventually, but not necessarily in the week. And sometimes I'll like separate that into like groups of like, okay, this is yard work, and like this is, I don't know, housework, this is YouTube. So like I just like having it all in, like I can't be like, you have to do this now, because then it's too much. It has to be like, you have the option to do this whenever you want. You just need to get it done in this sort of time period. Does anyone else relate to that? It's interesting, right? And I found myself reading this stuff and just like feeling like this explains a lot. Because I know I'm autistic, and I know I'm going to struggle with things that other people don't, but I was like, I should be able to do this stuff, and I want to do this stuff, but I can't. And that's what this is. Like, it just, like, it was a light bulb moment for me. And again, I'm not saying I am PDA because I don't know, and it's not like a diagnosable thing, but it makes a lot of sense to me. And maybe you guys are listening to me and you're like, oh yeah, I like that too. But yeah, it's like an anxiety. It's you feel anxiety if you're not in control. Like, and also I was reading, like, you can be like very obsessive about other people, which is interesting. I don't want to, I don't want to admit it, but I have definitely been like that. I've learned how to not do that, but it's definitely like my default. I want to be in control. But it causes like severe anxiety, and it's hard to explain because it doesn't make sense to me. I don't know why I am this way, but I am. And like trying to explain it to people, they're just, they would just be like, well, get over it, like everybody gets stressed or whatever, everybody wants freedom, like whatever. But no, like I literally, like, it's the amount of anxiety that you would feel if like you were being chased by an axe man or something. Like, it's it's not something you want to feel or push through, or it's like an extreme reaction. And it's a lot worse now, post burnout, just because like I flipped that switch super easy now. I'm getting better, but like still my nervous system was like absolutely fried. But yeah, like I'll get like a phone call, and like the amount of adrenaline and like it's like my heart rate spikes. I'm like freaking out, I can't even explain it because it sounds stupid. The amount of it's genuinely like a phobia of loss of autonomy. Like but like why is that a thing? Why? It's interesting. But yeah, it says like PDAers are wired to go into that fight, flight, or freeze mode more easily. And I am definitely like that. And another thing that was on our website is that like they're often like in that state for so prolonged. It's like, like experiencing a trauma or something. And I was in fight or flight mode for like 2 years, I don't know, which sounds impossible, right? But I was. It sounds really dramatic, but like, hence the burnout, Sorry, I'm like reading my phone to make sure I didn't miss anything. But yeah, I think I covered everything I wanted to cover. I just thought this was super interesting, and I'd heard the term a lot, and I was like, it's not me. I can do demands. But then I started reading about it, and I was like, okay, that feels relatable. So, I don't know. I really don't know. But I wanted to share with you guys, because maybe you are also unaware of this profile, and maybe it can illuminate like some of your experiences. So yeah, let me know what you think. If you have more knowledge on this topic, feel free to leave it below. I guess the other thing I wanted to say is that like a lot of times this profile can be like, I think, autistic kids that are more sort of like explosive, like more outwardly, like quote unquote causing problems, or you know, they can manipulate people and that sort of stuff. And like all of this is because of this like drive for autonomy. And so I think a lot of parents probably view it as a behavior problem when it's really like there's an underlying issue you need to treat. But there's also perhaps people like me who are more like internalizers, and we just feel really big anxiety inwardly, but we don't express it outwardly. We kind of get quiet and like withdrawn, you know? And I think those people are a lot less likely to be seen and understood, you know? But yeah, it's like a lot of things I feel like in psychology are based on external behaviors, and it's like that doesn't cover everything, because not everyone externally expresses how things are inside. So anyways, yeah. that's my little spiel on PDA. It's really interesting. I hope you guys enjoyed the rambles and the taps. Feel free to let me know what you think in the comments. Like, if I'm completely off base and wrong here, please let me know. But yeah. It feels like it explains a lot of things that I couldn't explain before. So, I don't know. Knowledge is power. So I just wanted to talk about it, but I wanted to talk about it so that, like, if some of you are in the same boat where you're like, why can't I do this? Or like, why do I feel this way? Maybe this is your explanation. I don't know. Anyways, I need to stop rambling. Yeah, I will see you guys in my next video. Okay. I appreciate you being here and listening, and yeah.